Mold isn't just dangerous for you and your loved ones, your family, right? It's actually also very dangerous for your pets. Hello, I'm Michael Rubino, indoor air quality expert. And if you have pets, you absolutely need to watch this video. And if you don't, it's okay, just skip it, I have other videos. First off, if you've watched any videos that I've made, you probably know from right now, mold is an organism. It only really thrives in environments that have too much humidity, too much moisture, too much water damage, etc. It typically grows behind your walls or behind your ceilings. And as an organism, it's constantly trying to reproduce. And in its efforts to reproduce, it creates particles called spores and sometimes toxins called mycotoxins. What's interesting about that is from that point on, as those spores and toxins come into the environment, they attach themselves to dust particles that are already in your air. What that means is it then becomes part of the home's natural dust. Now let's think about this for a second. Let's just say this hand right here is the floor, and these two fingers are gonna be a little cat or a little puppy. They're very, very close to the floor where the dust obviously collects. So their breathing zone, they're much more likely to inhale dust particles than actually you and I are. And so it's really important that you keep a clean home for your loved ones, your furry loved ones as well, your beloved pets, because they're very likely to get sick from too much mold. And I'm gonna kind of dive into that further. If your furry loved one is scratching and licking excessively, has nasal discharge or labored breathing, or any breathing difficulties, it could be because of an environmental exposure. Now, if they have rashes or fur loss, lethargy, or changes in appetite, that also could be because of environmental exposures. All right, last but not least, vomiting, diarrhea, tremors, seizures, nose or mouth bleeding, all of those can be attributed to potential environmental exposure. So it's really important if your furry loved ones are experiencing any of these symptoms, or if you suspect that your house has water damage, mold growth, etc., you take care of it promptly because it definitely affects your furry loved ones pretty significantly. One of the best ways to find out if you have mold that's affecting you and your loved ones, and especially your furry loved ones, you could do the dust test. You go to thedusttest.com, it's super simple, it ships right to your door, you collect dust from across your house, you send it back, it gets analyzed by a third-party accredited lab, and it tells you all the different molds that you typically have, how abnormal or normal that may be. Are they 10 times higher, 100 times higher, 1,000 times higher? I mean, we're talking about scientific information to really evaluate, is the dust in my home healthy or is it abnormal? And could it create a situation where I might get sick or my furry loved ones get sick? It helps you answer that specific question. With that being said, if I have mold and if you have mold, the first thing we want to do, we want to get our furry loved ones out of there. Now, that's traumatic, I understand. This could be a difficult thing and easy to say, hard to do. But the reality of it is, the longer your pets are in a moldy environment, the more likely they are to get sick. Aspergillosis is actually quite common in pets. You know, we tend to think that it's more of a human issue, but you can see aspergillosis and fungal infections develop in cats, in dogs. We don't want that happening to your pet, right? So if your pet is in a moldy environment, the first thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna get that pet out of there. Very, very important. The second thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna take your pet to the vet, right? Just like human beings, you're gonna need some sort of medicine to deal with the fungal infections, detox the toxins out of their body. You know, it's very important. There are functional medicine vets out there. There are holistic vets out there that practice root cause medicine, similar to a lot of the doctors out there transitioning to that root cause medicine practice today. So I think you could find somebody in your area if you're kind of searching for the right keywords on Google, asking for, you know, people in the right communities for recommendations. Of course, someone that you can easily get to is obviously very important. Now, when it comes to actually treatment, it's gonna vary depending on what your pet's gone through, depending on how sick your pet is. You know, if you've caught this early on enough, and you're sort of looking into this before your pet gets sick, you're in a better spot. If you're watching this and your pet is already sick, you might be in a tougher spot. I mean, your pet might need steroids and blood transfusions, treatments and detoxes. I mean, it may need pretty severe healing treatments. You know, that's why I say you gotta leave that up to the doctor or the vet. But I just want to prepare you for what's to come. You know, it's very possible that you'll have to be dealing with some of these issues, which can be scary, but I think they're important to start treatment faster. And again, emphasis on you cannot treat them until they're out of the moldy environment. All right, so while your pet's gone, the best thing for you to do is address the mold situation in your house. Now, if you've had water damage from roof leaks or window leaks or whatever the situation might be that allowed for mold to grow in the first place, you have to first figure out why you have mold and correct those conditions. So we can give you an example. Water's coming in from a window leak. I have to repair that window, because if I just go and remediate around it, but I never repair the actual water intrusion event, guess what happens? Water's just gonna come in again, I'm gonna have mold again. I didn't actually solve anything. So making sure that as part of the program, whatever caused the opportunity for mold to grow has to be fixed and eradicated. And then moving forward with remediation, you're gonna wanna remediate properly, hire a licensed professional, someone who's certified, someone who knows what they're doing, that actually can eradicate the mold from around your area, and then you'll actually be good and safe, have a healthy environment. Last but not least, going back to the first sentiments that I had in this video was, obviously the pet is very low to the ground, they're exposed to a lot of dust where that dust settles. So thinking about from this perspective, if I have organisms creating particles, creating toxins that are aerosolizing, binding with my dust, settling on the floor, right? This is what happens in these types of water damage events. Cleaning and removing the contaminated dust and waiting for new dust to generate that's less toxic because it doesn't have all these dangerous microbes in them. Now we're actually creating a healthy environment for our pets. So you want to remove the mold, make sure you correct the issues that allowed water damage to exist in the first place, and then remove this contaminated dust that's affecting your pet. And then finally, your pet would have a good place to heal. So now I'm going to teach you how to prevent mold, especially in places that you might not think about quite often. Obviously, if you have a house, dehumidifiers during wet seasons is really important, making sure you're controlling humidity. If humidity goes above 60%, you start getting in that dangerous area where mold can start to grow, bacteria can start to thrive, et cetera, et cetera. So dehumidification systems in your house might be a good idea, especially in summertime, wet seasons, et cetera, et cetera. You'll want to obviously maintain your house and prevent water damage as much as humanly possible. Checking windows and doors and roof for leaks and things like that, that's going to be paramount. But let's talk about some of the more, things we don't think about, like our pet food. Okay, so keeping pet food open in an open environment, that allows moisture absorption. Best thing for you to do, keep that food in a sealed environment away from the moisture that's already naturally in the air, away from spills and other things from being able to actually happen. All right, next thing, we need to clean our bowls. When you have pets, they're obviously licking water and food from their bowls. It's really important that you clean it daily to remove any bacteria that can potentially be there. Of course, any mold that could potentially be there. I mean, think about it for 1 second. You have a bowl of water that just opened into the air. You have mold that's already part of our ecosystem. Again, that's part of the air. There's gonna be some level of spores. As those spores land into the water, if I let that water bowl sit there for a couple days and I don't wash it, I'm probably gonna start to see mold growing around that bowl, right? And so I think it's really important to wash these things, let them dry overnight, and then the next day, when the pets are up looking for their food or water, you refill it back up in a fresh bowl. Bi-weekly cage cleanings. Okay, so if you have a cage, sometimes you have a cage, sometimes you don't. There are two camps of this, no discrimination. If you have a cage, you have to make sure you clean it. And if you don't have a cage, you have to make sure you're deep cleaning your home, because where they're sleeping, where they're actually, spending time, whether you're going away and you need to put them in a cage and you're crate training them, whatever it might be, right? You need to make sure that crate's cleaned regularly, or the environment in which they're spending most of their time is cleaned regularly. They're gonna bring stuff into their crate, they're gonna bring stuff into their room. It's like having a toddler. except it's a furry loved one, right? So it's really, really important that you do a good job cleaning up their home and their space. If your pet has a bed and toys that they chew on, chew toys that they're constantly picking up with their mouth, the bed obviously that they're sleeping in, again, it's just like we've seen all the data that our pillowcases can have more bacteria than our toilet seats, right? Think about how much bacteria your loved one will exude into the bed and where they sleep, right? Really important that those are washed regularly, just like you wash your own bedding regularly, right? Now, the other thing is toys. The human body has bacteria in the mouth. Same thing with furry loved ones. They have bacteria in their bodies, in their mouth. If they're chewing on things, if they're carrying things with their mouth, they're gonna transfer some bacteria. It's really important that we clean those items somewhat regularly, at least once a week, every other week, something to that effect. Because the more you go without regular cleanings, the more likely you are to just really have too much bacteria development grow on some of these things, which again can kind of come back to haunt you if your pet gets sick, or even you get sick from just the amount of bacteria overload that could be inside your home. So these are things that I think easy to do, easy to implement. Just start thinking about them and you'll have a healthier home for you and your family, and of course your loved ones, your furry loved ones as well.